Well, Pacer Nation, that one absolutely stunk after getting 3 victories in a row. The Indiana Pacers get a good punch from the Milwaukee Bucks. 115-92 is the final score. Indiana actually had an 8-point lead, 31-23 after the first quarter, and got completely outplayed, outclassed, out-hustled the final 3 quarters. It looked like a repeat of game one, Foch.
It really did. And you're talking about an 8-point lead, in the first quarter. I know it's late, but that feels like a dream. Did that really happen? Because this was a tough game to watch. I felt like we saw a team back against the wall in Milwaukee playing in front of their home crowd. They fought, they scratched, they clawed, they felt like they out hustled the Pacers for the loose balls, the offensive rebounds. They wanted it more tonight, and that was very evident watching this game. If you missed the first quarter, you saw quarters 2, 3, and 4. It was all Milwaukee.
It really was, and I think we talked about it on the last episode. Like you're going to get Milwaukee's best punch. How do you handle it? Well, I thought Indiana actually landed the first punch.
Mhm.
They came out, they got themselves to a big lead. They were up 24-16 at one point, and when they were up 24-16, that's when TJ McConnell entered the game. When Tyrese Halliburton came back into the game, it was a 1 point. It was a 1 point game. The Bucks had outscored Indiana by 7 at that point over like a 3 minute stretch, and honestly, I just feel like there was a lot of just bad play overall. Everybody was a minus in the plus minus except for Jarris Walker in the final like 4 or 5 minutes that he played. But it was just a bad game, and I think that one thing we have seen from this bench in the playoffs so far is it's been very random. It's not been good. And if you go back and look at the first 4 games, the starters plus Ben Shepherd have been a plus in the plus minus the category. Obi Toppin and TJ McConnell have been minuses in this series. They were minus 18 together tonight. So just not good minutes from your bench.
No, it really wasn't. And this was different from the previous two games where Obi had a really hot first quarter, giving the Pacers 9 to 11 points. That was not the case tonight. Yeah, you mentioned it, minus 18 for him and McConnell. I just don't feel like there was a moment with this bench tonight I mean, I'll give Ben Shepherd credit. Ben Shepherd in the first quarter had 6 points, hit 2 threes. I thought that was really positive. But other than that, I mean, Rick tried to do a couple different things. We saw Isaiah Jackson come out there and didn't really do anything. You saw McDermott again play a couple minutes. I just felt that the bench just didn't have that guy that could really, like, you didn't see the TJ McConnell of the regular season. That was evident. People forget McConnell was on a run at one point where he scored what? I don't know, double digit points in like 17 of 18 games. Like it hasn't been like that lately. McConnell 3 of 10 from the field. I think he's getting a little too. The Bucks are challenging him to take threes, and lately he just hasn't been making them.
I think every team was still challenging him to take
They
threes,
are
no matter who they're playing. The problem is he can't get in the paint and score like he once was. Part of it is Milwaukee's size. The other part is when you're playing a team in the regular season, you know the scouting report, but it's just one game. When you're playing someone in a series, you know what to take away. And the Bucks have, especially Doc Rivers, has taken away McConnell offensively from this game.
absolutely
So you live with that, I guess. If you're Milwaukee, just kind of
1 of 10 from three from McConnell in this series.
yeah.
He's got to stop shooting them.
That's 10 too many 3 pointers taken. I mean, I know that he hit that one, so maybe it's nine
No,
too many taken, right?
lifetime ago.
Yeah. But like even the one, like it was like Tyrese is a great drive and he has to kick it out to who? TJ McConnell, and there's like 50
Yep,
feet of space for a
wide
reason. So
open.
yeah, I mean, honestly, like when I watched this game, I thought to myself, okay, the starters, like they look pretty good early on. I thought they kind of were going to get things going, and they were only down by 5 points at the end of the half. I thought, okay, that's still anybody's game. Like I wasn't overly concerned. But when the Bucks came out and scored like 7 points in the matter of like 90 seconds to start the third quarter, I said, oh no, that is the worst start you could ever come out to if you're Indiana trying to, weather the storm and not let the crowd get into it. I mean, Patrick Beverly had a great second quarter. I don't really think offensively he did much more out of that. Malik
No.
Beasley got really hot in the second half. Uh, Bobby Portis had his playoff career high with 29 points. Surprisingly, Middleton had 29 points. It was a pretty quiet 29 points because he did a lot of
Steady.
damage early and then just kind of kept chipping in here and there. I just honestly, I was stunned by some of the decisions by Rick Carlisle tonight. And I know that I'm blaming the game on him, Facci, but it was a 9 point game. Ben Shepherd had come in for Aaron Nesmith. I felt like the starters with Shepherd kind of had found a little bit of momentum. We go to a timeout, and then all of a sudden, it's the bench unit with Isaiah Jackson in there, Obi Toppin, McConnell, Shepherd, and Halliburton, and the Bucks go on another run, like another 6-0 run in like a minute 10. And I'm like, okay, like every little bit of momentum the Pacers would get going, it would get just taken away by either Milwaukee outplaying them or just really questionable, in my opinion, substitutions.
Yeah, I think, even to go further back, it's just the Pacers, once they made the bench unit came in the beginning of the game, they finished the first quarter flat and they opened up that second quarter really flat. For a while, Indiana had, I think it was like 2 points, maybe 6 minutes into that second quarter. And I think a big thing that happened, that if I could pinpoint where this game changed in one moment, I honestly do think it's when Pat Bev started his antics on Obi Top, and Obi gets called for the traveling. He's holding the ball. He overreacts. He pushes Pat Bev, which is everything Beverly wants you to do in that situation. The crowd fed off of it, and Pat Bev fed off of it. You mentioned 12 points in the second quarter. His confidence was through the roof at that point. Like I mentioned, the crowd is completely behind him. The Bucks are behind him. It was 35-33 in favor of the Bucks when that technical foul happened. The Pacers never recovered from it. And yeah, it was a blessing to only be down 5 points at halftime. I felt like, hey, you know what? That's fine. Indiana will be all right. They got outscored in that second quarter. I got it right for me, 30-17.
Yeah.
And then you thought that was respond. In the third quarter, it was even worse, 34-19. I just felt like Indiana was nowhere to be found outside of that first quarter.
Yeah, honestly, I think when the starters had to come back in early, they just didn't have their rhythm going again. And I feel like you kind of feel the momentum shift, right? You talk about that play there with Obi
Change.
Toppin holding on to the basketball, and they're chanting, throw him out, whatever. You hear at the end of this game, they're chanting, Bucks and seven, Bucks and seven. I mean, I guess they're keeping it a little bit more classy than Indiana was with their Bobby Sucks chants. But I'll just say this, like, role players play better at home. And
Definitely.
you can kind of see that. Like, look at the Pacers. Like, all their role players, like Obi Toppin, TJ McConnell, they've had better home games than they've had road games in this series, especially Obi Toppin. He's been feeding off that crowd. And Malik Beasley, he's not been very good in this series this whole time. I think one thing you have to realize with Doc Rivers here is he did a good job with shortening his rotation. I mean, they basically played a 6-man rotation in this game. Now they're only going to have 2 days rest. So will that impact them? Because Pat Bev played a lot of minutes, Bobby Portis played a lot of minutes, and Bobby Portis was kind of a redemption game for him after getting ejected in game 4. I think this was one of those things where he was trying to make it up to the crowd.
He
Chris
did.
Middleton's been great, but like, you didn't see as much Andre Jackson Jr. as you thought you might
No,
see.
surprised
Not a
me.
whole lot of AJ Green. So it was really just like, okay, here's our starting five and Pat Connaughton. They're going to play the majority of the minutes tonight. And Damian Lillard, it seems like maybe he could come back for game 6. The
I
way
don't
that
know.
some of the reporting has been on Giannis, it does not seem like he will be coming back yet. I'm not really sure what else to really speculate on what's going to happen in game 6, but Indiana had a chance to kind of put this team out of its misery, go in there and be able to rest up and let whatever happens with Philly and New York settle itself out as New York blew one at the end of regulation, letting
That was
Philly
that
win.
was
And,
tough. That was
Tyrese
quite
Maxey
the
scored
blow.
7 points in like what, 20 seconds. So,
Mhm.
it was great by them. But now both games are going to a game 6. And I think that a lot of people were maybe anticipating that would happen, at least for Indiana. But yeah, I cannot believe I'm not mad that Indiana lost. I'm mad in the way they showed up and just actually didn't show up. They didn't play well at all in this game, and it felt very reminiscent to game 1.
Chickens were counted, and none of them hatched. I mean, people got ahead of themselves, and I think that everybody just made it seem like a foregone conclusion. Pacers versus Knicks next round. I wanted to be wrong. I really did. The last episode that we said, I predicted the Bucks to win because I just felt like I don't know if this Pacers team is there yet. They're ready to be mature enough to beat a team 4 times in a row in the playoffs and close them out in 5. I would love to get to that point, but we're just not there yet. And I felt that you saw Milwaukee just wanted it more tonight. Indiana, 92 points. That's the lowest they've scored all year behind game one's performance of 94 points. So yeah, they really did regress back to that team, in game one. And yeah, shout out to Doc. The shortened rotation definitely worked. I mean, they even managed to get 21 good minutes out of Danilo Gallinari, who was
Mhm.
the end of the bench, when they turned to him the other game. So I thought that was surprising. But Malik Beasley, you talked about him, 18 points all in the second half.
Yep.
He had nothing at halftime. He responds with 18 points second half. I thought Brook Lopez gave them, just what he could. He had 4 points at halftime. He gives you 8 in the second half. Middleton was just rock solid throughout. We talked about 10 points in the first. I think he had 8 in the second, 7 in the third. He just kept giving them anywhere between 7 to 10 points. Bobby Portis obviously was the guy that really made the big difference in this game. So the Bucks knew who to count on for the Pacers. You didn't have that tonight. You had Miles Turner had, I think it was 7 or 9 points in that first quarter. I thought he got off to a really good start. And then that was it. He had 4 points through the remaining 3 quarters of this game. And that's obviously a far cry from what you saw recently, the last 2 games giving you 29. Pascal Siakam never had it going tonight. There was never a time that you really felt like for Siakam he was in rhythm and able to get enough touches. And I feel like that's kind of the story of this starting lineup is like nobody ever really got it going outside of maybe Halliburton making, say, 2 shots in a row at one point. No one was in rhythm.
Yeah, nobody was in rhythm. And I will say this: I thought Pascal Siakam got completely outplayed by Bobby Portis in this
He
game
did
tonight. Yeah,
drastically.
it was bad. I mean, honestly, like it's quite embarrassing. And the fact that he continues to be such a poor free throw shooter, just 1 of 5 from the free
It's
throw line
unacceptable.
tonight. And
Unacceptable.
I shared the video of his free throw release on my Twitter feed because I was watching him shooting warm-ups in game 4, and I'm thinking to myself, he doesn't shoot his threes like that. It's like he puts an extra hitch on it before he lets it go, and it just looks really funky. And I'm surprised they haven't tried to work that mechanic out because it just doesn't look good at all. But, if you go back and just look at this, Facci, 44.4% from the field for the Pacers, 52.4% for the Bucks. They were just a much better shooting team, and they shot 37.9% from three compared to Indiana's 31.6%. So, they just shot the ball better, and they had a lot of good looks because the Pacers defense was not very good in this game. And I just don't understand why Rick Carlisle decided to play mostly. The 11-man rotation. It just you put McDermott in the first half to try to bust the zone a little bit. And yes, he did get a three, so I'm not going to sit here and blame the McDermott minutes on this game or anything like that. But Isaiah Jackson has not played hardly at all in this series.
No.
Just a few garbage minutes here and there, and you throw him out there in the third quarter to match Danilo Gallinari getting out there because they were trying to play with a more mobile big because the Obi Top and Pascal Siakam lineup did not work very well against the Portis Gallo lineup in the second quarter. So they tried to do something different, and they really didn't give Ijax much of a chance. He got a few minutes around there. I think he played 9 total minutes in this game,
Yep.
and a good amount of that was at the end. So he maybe got like 4 minutes in the third, but like it just seemed to me like it was so unnecessary to be experimenting with these weird lineups when you're only down 9 with like 7 minutes left, 6 minutes left in the third quarter. So it's not the reason they lost. I'm not saying that, but the Bucks literally scored 92 points in quarters 2, 3, and 4. They matched what the Pacers had after, in the last 3 quarters. Indiana, I think they ended up scoring 61 points. Does that sound right? 61 points?
Yeah, it was 61 points in quarters 2 through 4.
Right. So they ended up getting outscored 92-61 the final 3 quarters. That's
It's
embarrassing.
terrific. It's terrible. And I think that when you're looking for maybe a little bit of a spark, I guess, when you bring in Isaiah Jackson, but he's not the kind of guy that's going to provide like that TJ McConnell type spark where you're going to go on a run. I feel like it was something different. It didn't really do anything. But yeah, you mentioned experimenting. It's just a tough time to really be. I think maybe you could live with it a little bit if they experiment with like getting Jarris Walker out there or something, where it's okay, maybe a little bit different. And Isaiah Jackson did play well against the Bucks in the season series and the regular season, but it's just hard to not really be playing all series and then be asked to play meaningful minutes and be able to back it up. So, you also talked about the shooting from the Pacers. They shot 12 of 38 from three. It's gross, but they started the game 7 of 12 from
Yeah.
three. That means they went 5 of 26 from three after that.
Yep.
That's awful by all means. I mean, they shot basically sub 20% from three after that scorching start in that first quarter. So I felt like they just didn't really have that going. And then Pascal Siakam, you mentioned 1 of 5 from the free throw line. As bad as it is, it's worse when you put into perspective he was the only starter to take a free throw for the Pacers.
Mm-hmm.
Halliburton didn't get to the line. 10 of his 14 shots were from three. He didn't have that. I mean, I know it's 40%, but in reality, come on. We know he's putting up some threes later on. I just felt that we needed Nembhard driving a little bit more than what he was doing in the previous games. He was driving more, getting to the rim a little bit. I think that Turner just 9 shots in this game. Neesmith, I think, battled foul trouble for a good amount of it. He had 3 fouls at the first half. I think that really made things tough. And I just feel like we're going back to Indiana. And I don't want to say the pressure's off the Pacers because that's definitely not true. But I feel like Indiana might have went into this game with a little bit more pressure where the Bucks might have been saying, hey, you know what? I know we're down, but let's just lay it all on the line tonight and see what happens. And I think for the Pacers now, I think they're very excited to be back home because this team looked night and day compared to the team that we saw back in Indiana.
I mean, absolutely. And I think that if you want to put things in perspective, like we talked about this on the last episode, what pace will the Pacers play with? They played Milwaukee's pace for the majority of this
Absolutely.
game. And, Malik Beasley, I wasn't crapping on the guy. I think he was actually right. He said, we can't guard in the full court. Like, that's not who we are. He said, we're a half court defensive team. And they showed it. They were able to muck it up and play their style and figure things out. I mean, Indiana just wasn't getting a lot of looks. And then when they finally did get some mismatches, they were kind of making bad passes. Like Nembhard realized in the very first play of the second half that Siakam had a mismatch. He tries throwing this cross court post up pass, gets stolen. I mean, it just set the tone for everything. I mean, and I'm not blaming Nembhard for why everything went down. I'm just saying, like, one little thing like that can just spiral out of control. And I just, Miles, did you see the visibility? Like when he got frustrated when Tyrese didn't get in the ball, when he was
Mhm.
posting up Middleton in the third quarter? It's little things like that that you don't usually see from this Pacers team. They were frustrated not only with how the game was going, but with one another. And I'm not saying it's going to carry over or anything like that. It was just one of those games where they were just fed up and nothing went right. And I'm not saying this just to say this, but we've not really seen this Pacers team allow a bad loss like this to carry over to the next game. They've been very good at responding, just like they did in game one. They came out in game two. They weathered the storm of Dame going off in the first half and were able to close things out in the second. Pascal Siakam was out of his mind, and that was on the road. So now you're talking about coming home to your environment, playing in front of the fans that have been great for you. You haven't lost the game at home yet in the playoffs so far. Home court advantage has been a real thing. So I don't think Indiana wants anything to do with going back to Milwaukee for a game 7.
No
So
chance.
they're going to have to lay it all on the line and be the more desperate team. They're going to be the team that makes probably some adjustments now because they've won 3 in a row prior to this game. And I just think anytime you're playing a playoff team, I don't care who's out on the court or not, it's hard to get 4 games in a row. That's why you see even teams get like gentleman sweeps a lot. It's very rare that you see sweeps happen in the NBA. I mean, I know it happens sometimes, but like it's just a very hard thing to accomplish. And so with Indiana, not giving them an excuse or let them off the hook because they played bad tonight. They were just not good. They were bad from the beginning of the second quarter to the end of the game. But I will say that it's very, very, very difficult to win 4 straight games in a row.
It's really difficult, especially in the playoffs. I mean, it's hard to sweep a team. You're not going to sweep them, but I'm saying to win 4 straight games, it's just not realistic for where we're at. Maybe like the Oklahoma City Thunder can get it done, being the 1 seed. We're not the 1 seed. We're the 6 seed. And
Yep.
I understand the Bucks don't have some of their top players out there, but we do need that home crowd to be rocking for game 6. That is vital. Just took a look. I wanted to double check. The Pacers have won 7 straight home games dating back to the regular season. We need this one. And that crowd's got to be as lively as possible. It's going to be a 6:30 Eastern time start on Thursday. I think that's pretty good. I mean, the Pacers have been playing all different hours of the night, and you don't want to make an excuse for that. look, we have no excuses to make. But in my opinion, I don't think that we're going to see Giannis and Dame out there. I think if the Bucks win Game 6, I think they very well may be back for Game 7. I really do. But I think the Bucks are still in that wait and see type of situation where, it's still Game 6 on the road. I don't know, but you don't want to fumble this opportunity. The Pacers fumble this opportunity. They have to go back to Milwaukee for Game 7, and either Dame or Giannis are coming back, let alone maybe the potential for both. I don't feel good about that. The whole series will have swung by then, but I think that it's vital that the Pacers get Pascal Siakam back involved, similar to the way that he was in Game 1 and Game 2. I know that he is being defended, differently and far better by Milwaukee since then. But to put things in perspective, here's Siakam's shots. Game 1, 25 attempts. Game 2, 23 attempts. Game 3, 17 attempts. Game 4, 14 attempts. Game 5, 12 attempts. His shots have gone down each and every game. I'm sorry, but the Pacers are not winning Game 6 if Siakam's taken 10 shots or less. We need this man to be, getting the ball, getting in a groove, and being confident. And I think that will go a long way. But also, free throws, he's got to hit them. Last 2 games, 2 of 8 from the free throw line. That can't happen again.
I mean, there's a lot of things at play here, Facci. Now, I will say this was some good news for the Pacers if you want to hear this from Hardwood Paroxysm. He said, I love the Bucks tonight. Great spot. Desperation at home. Teams after shooting better than 50% from 3 in the previous game on the road are about to be 41 and 73, 17 and 36 in the first round. Great spot for them. So we'll see exactly what happens. I'm kind of interested to see if the Bucks can carry over all that hot shooting they had in this game and take it into Indianapolis. I don't think that's going to be the case.
No.
I think Indiana's going to play with a much more focused edge. I think they know, like, okay, and I think Maddie said this pretty well in the last episode. She's like, the Pacers can walk into this and say, we can afford to lose a game. They shouldn't feel that way, but they could walk in there and say that we can afford to lose one because if we lose one, we still have one at home left, right? I think that maybe have been in the back of their mind too when things started kind of going out of their control a little bit. And they just got to come and bring it. They didn't bring it tonight. We've seen this team
Far
play
from.
at a totally different level in this series, and we didn't see that tonight. And that's kind of the ebb and flows of a playoff series. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, I would not be shocked if Milwaukee made this a game in Game 6 and won it, but I think that this is Indiana's game to lose. I think Indiana, assuming that Giannis and Dame continue to be out, there is 0 ways that they can lose that game and win this series. If they let this get back to a Game 7 in Milwaukee, I would be absolutely stunned if they won it. So I just think Indiana, they have to come out. They have to set the tone. They have to get things rolling early, and they have to shoot the ball well. And they're going to make adjustments because I think Milwaukee did show some new wrinkles tonight with what they were trying to do. That 6-man rotation, I think, is going to be different. They were able to play their pace. They were able to settle into that zone a little bit more. And, I felt like they went small more than I realized they were going to, playing Bobby and Gallo together. How do the Pacers counter that? Is Isaiah Jackson a good fit for that matchup? We didn't see a big sample size of it, but maybe with the practice in there, it could be a little bit better. But, Jalen Smith has been pulled from the rotation, basically. To me, it's desperation time. And I don't think Indiana can relegate to playing a 10 or 11-man rotation like they did in this game, or like they did in Game 1. I think they need to go back to making an 8-man rotation and maybe 9 with Isaiah getting the backup 5 minutes against that faster lineup. But if not, I think you just got to ride Miles Turner a little bit more. He is capable of playing close to 38, 39 minutes in a game if you need him to. So I would play Miles more because of the ability to spread the floor and shoot the 3, Facci. Nobody else really can do that in our center position. And Pascal Siakam's shooting has been so putrid the last couple of games. You're going to need someone else that can go out there and knock some threes down.
I do think that Turner has that capability of kind of putting us on his back a little bit. And it was a lot to say. The last 3 playoff games have been Turner's best playoff games. He kept topping himself. And also, dating back to the last game, the Pacers made 22 threes. They could only go down from what we just saw. But I do agree with you. They got to shorten that rotation. Even though Doug McDermott has hit a three the last couple games, I'm good cutting the McDermott minutes out. Isaiah Jackson, maybe we see him again, but I really don't know either. And for TJ McConnell, I know there's a lot of good that he brings. It hasn't really been great, though. I mean, 3 of 10 in this game, 4 of 11 last game. In game one, when the Pacers lost, he was 5 of 13. So he's had some rough shooting performances where he's putting up double-digit shots. I mean, think about this. Like I said, 10 shots for McConnell, 12 shots for Siakam, 9 shots for Turner, 10 shots for McConnell. I mean, that's just not winning basketball right there. Is like Miles Turner needs to have more shots than TJ McConnell. And you can't just pin this one on any one player because simply put, the Pacers did not have it tonight. They did. You saw, I mean, when you talk about how incredible that offensive rebounding was in game two, like really just game three, when Halliburton hit that game winner. That offensive rebounding was insane. And I just felt like tonight you looked at a Pacers team where their leading rebounder was Obi Toppin with 6. I mean, come on. They had a ton of guys that had 4 rebounds, 3 rebounds. Like that's not what was getting the job done. So I just feel like the stats might show it a little bit closer. Milwaukee won the rebounding battle by 8. It felt a lot greater than that. Offensive rebounding, I know it says 11 to 10. It wasn't like that. The Bucks were getting those key offensive rebounds in that second and third quarter that really led to second chance points. I just felt like the Pacers were never really a threat after that first quarter. And, Doc Rivers actually showed a little bit of something today. But I also do think, could Bobby Portis play better than he played tonight?
No.
I mean, I don't think he can. 29 and 10, the crowd behind him. That's a guy that is just a different man at home and a totally different man on the road. And, I'm looking forward to him coming back to reality a bit.
I will say this. I just looked on Twitter.
There
Doc
you go.
Rivers said that Giannis and Dame are very, very, very close to returning. So if
Interesting.
that wants to put a little fear in you Pacer fans, that should be a little fear. But I will say this. The main reason why I think Milwaukee won this game was the pace. The fast break points, Indiana had just 5. And
That's
when you
disgusting for
when you
Pacers.
only get 5 fast break points with this Pacers roster, like you're just not gonna win a lot of games. And it's part of because they're missing a lot of shots, taking a lot of threes, and they're taking the ball out of the basket a lot because Milwaukee made over 50% of their shots. So they just weren't able to play their pace. I know that they were trying to at times, but it just wasn't working out. So I mean, yeah, it's okay to be upset. I think that, Rick Carlisle alluded to the fact that they didn't come out with the right intensity. That's pretty obvious. It was just a disappointing effort the last 3 quarters. You can sit here and be mad about it. You can stew on it. You can be frustrated because this is the sign of an immature team.
It is.
And we talked about it. If this team was going to show how mature they were going to be, they would go in there and take care of business. But the Bucks, they played a veteran heavy lineup. They didn't play hardly any of their young guys, and their vets showed up because their vets know what it takes to win. The Pacers had a lot of young guys out here that haven't been in these situations before, and I think you saw how experience dominated inexperience in this game. And you talked about it in the very first part of the podcast. The way Patrick Beverley got right under Obi Toppin's skin by going to get the ball. I want to say James Boyd put this out there. He said Pat Bev is like Lance Stevenson with the antics. You'll love him when he's on your team, hate him when he's not.
And it's crazy that Pat Bev every year is on a playoff team because he does make a difference. He really does. And that play, it's like that's how he affects the game. In my opinion, yeah, when I look back on this game, that's the moment that swung this game. It just the momentum completely shifted. Milwaukee just felt a lot hungrier. And hey, every team needs one of those. And to be honest, we had that with Andrew Nemhard earlier in the series. He was the guy that was getting under people's skins. He is the guy that got Bobby Portis tossed. He's the guy that was getting into a Dame. Like, you need a little bit of that chippiness. The Pacers didn't have that tonight. I'm not going to call Obi Toppin being chippy for overreacting. He lost his cool and he shouldn't have. So that was not that kind of position where you want to show a little bit of edge or chip on the shoulder. So I do think for the Pacers, Yeah, they have been able to take something away from losses, and I think they're going to realize they got to respond. And I think the crowd's got to be behind them. They got to get that going, and I just think that they can no longer afford to lose a game. Yes, technically it's an option because it's not do or die for the Pacers, but they better be treating it that way. You go back to Milwaukee for a game 7, it's not going to be good. I think overall, I think this team regressed a bit, but I think that we were all kind of ready for it. I think everybody in Pacer Nation didn't feel so confident that tonight was the night. I think they said we've went through a lot of letdowns earlier in this year, a lot of teams that we should have beat that we didn't. So I'm going to be a little bit weary about this one tonight. At least I know that's how I felt, and that's unfortunately how it played out. But Thursday, I think it's a quick turnaround, but it's not gonna, it's not too quick where all of a sudden what are the Pacers gonna do. I think this is just right to get back on track and handle business in 6.
I will say I think Jeremiah Johnson brought this up on the broadcast tonight for Bally Sports, where he was talking about the Pacers, and I brought this up too last episode. The Pacers have not blown a 3-1 series lead in franchise
Mhm.
history. You know, there's a first time for everything, right?
I
But
was about
still,
to say that. That's what I thought, unfortunately.
but I'm just saying they haven't ever done that
Not
before.
there yet.
So hopefully they're able to kind of right this storm. But I do think that JJ said that they've very rarely closed it out in 5 games when they've been up 3-1 in a 7-game series. So it is, par for the course for the Pacers to get blown out in those game fives and not really have their best showing. And I think it's kind of just common for teams to be feeling themselves a little bit when you're up 3 games to 1. You feel like you only have to win one. Uh, it's like you almost get kind of caught up in the moment. You're thinking, all right, we got this, whatever. And you maybe just come out with a little bit less intensity and a little bit less focus because you've put so much work into getting to 3-1 already. But like, that's not the killer instinct that you want to have. You want to have a killer instinct like, hey, we're down 3 games to 1. We got to win this game right now to keep our season alive, even though you're up 3-1. Like, that's the kind of mentality you have to play with. So, you know, I could sit here and talk about how bad this team was for another 35, 40 minutes and just be in my feels, but I would just say this. Because of how bad the Pacers played, Facci and I are going to take Wednesday night recording off. There will be no episode Thursday morning. We will be back Thursday night for a game recap, but we're going to take the day off, try to gather our thoughts, get some sleep. It's been a long couple of weeks here, but hopefully you guys understand. But there will be no episode tomorrow morning if you're looking for one of those. You can go back and listen to one of the old ones if you like to. Some of our interviews that we've had with different people, but maybe I'll even throw some of the old interviews out there for an episode or something like that. But we're not going to be recording anything new content wise. Just taking a break, and we'll be back Thursday night. So just get some rest, and you know what? Hopefully the Pacers can show up, and we'll have a great game to talk about.
Hey, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, guys, ever since the playoffs started, I mean, it feels like we've been doing like an episode every single day. And yeah,
Including
hey,
Sundays.
yes, yes. I mean, there's been a lot going on, and I think, yeah, we're to take a day off. But my question for you, Alex,
Yeah,
is: would you rather lose the way we did tonight, or would you rather lose the way the Knicks did in stunning fashion?
good question. I actually think tonight is the way I'd rather lose
I agree
because
with you. We just didn't have it.
because you didn't have it. They got a lot of confidence. I'm not going to sit here and say that you want them to have confidence or anything like that, but like I think because you played so bad, it's going to only refocus you. If you played good enough to win and just lost by like 2 points, you might be like, okay, we'll get the next one. But this one, now you realize we don't want to play with this. We're in dangerous territory. We've been able to avoid Giannis for 5 games. Does he come back in game 6? Like, does everything just kind of flip on its head here? It's the $1 million question. Like,
It is.
will Dame or Giannis come back? It just kind of feels like there's a potential that it could happen because
Mhm.
they waited to rule them out to like an hour and a half before the game. It was like not early on, like we saw Sunday. Like, they took their time in making sure that they let those guys work out in testing. So I don't know. I mean, I've seen different reporting saying that it doesn't seem like they're close, but then you hear Doc say it feels like they could be close. Maybe it's just gamesmanship and things
Mind
like
games.
that. What'd you say?
Some mind games. I think
Yeah.
you want your team the opposing team to be preparing for everything instead of just not preparing for Giannis. I think every coach should want to have a little bit of an edge.
Yeah. So, I mean, regardless, Indiana, I mean, I think if Giannis and Dame come back into it, like while they're great players, like Giannis hasn't played in like almost a month. So
Yeah.
maybe he's going to be rusty. How does Dame look on his Achilles? Can you attack that? Because I felt like Indiana was doing a great job attacking Dame
Were.
on defense.
Hmm.
And by taking him out, they've gotten better defensively. That's the bottom line. They really have. Now they do
Malik
lose that.
Beasley definitely has been a boost defensively. I feel like he's given him more size and just him stepping in the starting lineup. Yeah, I mean, Nemhard was just attacking Dame, making them really really pay for that. But also, if you look at both situations, the Knicks blow that game. Now they're going to Philly, where
Yeah.
Philly could tie it up. The Pacers are at least returning home, where they could have that crowd behind them. And I just feel like, hey, if you're going to lose a game five, I think it's understandable to lose a game five on the road and then handle business. Am I just saying this to make myself feel a little bit better? Of course, there's a little bit of that. But I think that this team also can shake this off and respond in game six. And yeah, that's kind of my final thing. Like I said before, if you're going to be in the building, don't leave with your voice.
Yeah.
Lose it. Lose it in the arena because this team needs it. Turner, when he's hearing the crowd chanting his name, Miles Turner, he's hitting threes. I mean, that's, I'm not going to go through the whole crowd chant right now at this hour, but Turner fed off of it. It worked. Let's bring it again.
Yeah. The fans were more of a six man in games 3 and 4 than they were tonight. The Pacers were. The Pacers 6 man did not show up tonight very well. I think Ben Shepherd, to me, was the best bench player tonight for sure. So anyway, Foch, I know that we could sit here and continue to talk about this, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And get your popcorn ready, ladies and gentlemen. Pacers had this series in the bag, and now the bag's open again. They gave life to not a lifeless team, but a team that was, on their last limb, and now they've given them a little bit more hope, and that's the last thing you wanted to do. So we'll see. I picked Pacers in 6. You pick Pacers in 6. It's good to be right. I would
Yeah,
rather have been wrong and won tonight, but you know
me
what?
too.
Like Kristen Harris said, hope this is our last broadcast with you, but it will not be. And just so everybody knows, if you didn't listen to Valley Sports, when Tyrese Halliburton hit a three to make it a 22-point deficit compared to a 25-point deficit with about 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, guess what Quinn Buckner said?
What?
We got plenty of time. So,
Oh
Quinn
man.
Quinn never gives up, man. Never gives up. And Denary, after he hit the three, goes, well, the Pacers got the lead to 22. They got a lot of work to do. And Quinn's like, nah, we got time. We got time, partner. I'm like, are you kidding me? We got time.
No,
So, anyway,
not enough time tonight.
always the optimist, Quinn Buckner.
Hey, there's got to be someone looking on the bright side. So I appreciate that, Quinn. But yeah, I want to chalk this one up as just not our night. Move on. And hey, like we said, next time you guys are hearing from us, might be some really good things to talk about. We might be moving on, or oh man, we're going to a dreaded game 7. Either
Yeah.
way, there is drama officially out there right now. This will not be a cakewalk. This one's going to be edge of the seat, maybe biting the fingernails a little bit type of material.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close game. I really do. So I will say this: give credit to the Bucks for their effort tonight. They played great,
Yep.
and you know what? They did what they're supposed to do, and they took care of business, defended home court, and now it's up to them. Can they still win back on the road? But Facci, go ahead and tell everybody where they can find us out on social media.
Absolutely. So you can find us on Twitter at PacersPod STP. You can find Alex on Twitter at AlexGoldenNBA. I can be found on Twitter at _FACCI. You can find us on Instagram at PacersPod STP. You can find us on Facebook at Setting the Pace. You can find us on TikTok at Setting the Pace. And Alex, tell them where they can check us out on YouTube.
Ladies and gentlemen, go to youtube.com/setting the pace, a Pacers podcast, where you can find all of our video content on there, mostly our post-game recaps and the additional playoff episodes that have been out there as well. Make sure you guys check those out. But Facci, I'm really excited. The Pacers are going to have a chance to get this series, win this series in front of their home fans, and give this great crowd another playoff game. So if you're hoping the Pacers and believe in the Pacers are going to win this series in 6 games, then hit me with those 3 words.
Let's go, Pacers.